Spain have emphatically schooled France to reach the World Cup final. Meanwhile, Man United's midfield rebuild is in full swing. Barca might sell Ferran Torres to avoid paying City, and a 30-minute halftime show is upon us for the World Cup final. This is DMAC Daily. A masterclass, a complete dismantling of the supposed super team of France, and a reminder to everyone of Spain's World Cup credentials, having breezed past Le Bleu 2-0 to reach the final. Light work in the end against a side that everyone deemed unstoppable. Now, not to flex or anything, but before a ball was kicked this tournament, I predicted both semi-finals unfolding, and I also tipped Spain to go all the way. And look, I'll admit I was immediately doubting myself in the group stages, but this Spain team has since proven all the doubters wrong, taking out all the heavyweights in the process, and truth be told, having had very little adversity to face throughout the entire tournament. Ironically, their biggest obstacle thus far had been Cabo Verde, held to a stalemate in the opener. That was crazy, but there was no panic following that early setback. Maybe they watched the 2010 tapes, where that World Cup winning side famously lost their opener to Switzerland before going all the way. Like the 2010 side, the Spain of 2026 then topped their group. They eased past Austria before taking out two European heavyweights in Portugal and Belgium. Were they the most entertaining side to watch? No, but they were dominating every game and getting the job done relatively easy. But the almighty France, now that would be another ballgame entirely, because as I mentioned, this was for many the super team of the World Cup, a forward line of insatiable quality, all seemingly gelling. Mbappe, Dembele, Olise, Barcola, Doué, Mateta, and more. How could anyone stop this lot, especially considering their backline was performing at an equally impressive level, having accumulated 3 successive clean sheets in the knockouts? This was potentially a World Cup decider taking place in the semi. So on to the match we go, and from the jump, France were struggling to find their rhythm. The midfield control of Rodri, Ruiz, and Olmo completely suffocated their opponents, limiting their ability to counter effectively. And yes, everyone knew that Spain were going to dominate the ball today. That's a given against basically any opponent, but it's the manner in which they completely nullified France's transitional threat that took me by surprise. We're so used to seeing France's explosive players be fed in space to which they can isolate defenders and cause all sorts of problems. But yeah, that did not happen under De La Fuente's watch. France weren't given an inch of space to operate, and Spain's first half performance would then be rewarded when Luca Dean switched off for a split second, committing a foul on Yamal in the box. Oyarzabal stepped up to bag his 5th goal of the tournament. Don't sleep on the Sociedad skipper. This lad is at the peak of his powers and never looked like missing. 15 minutes later, and Spain almost picked apart that French backline with their intricate, clever passing. The Barca boys of Olmo and Yamal making it look easy. Ruiz, in all honesty, probably should have done a little better with the finish, but that was the story of the first half. Spain were one step ahead. Their passing patterns were making the French second guess everything. Yamal's flank was the primary cause of concern for the Chomps. Dean didn't have an answer when isolated against Yamal in those 1v1 situations, especially with Porro bombing forward, which brings me to the second half and the second goal. A similar pattern down that right side. Porro feeds the ball into Olmo. All of France's players are ball watching Olmo in that moment. He manages to get himself in front of Upamecano and cleverly generates the 1-2 with Porro running into the box unaccounted for. And how's this for a finish from the Spurs fullback? Bro morphed into prime David Villa in an instant. What a finish. 2-0, a vintage La Roja goal, just ruthless simplicity. And France were shell-shocked. They'd been battering everyone up until this point, only to look inferior in every facet of their game today. You can't say this was on Saliba's injury either, because they were getting rinsed from kickoff. And just a minute after their second, Spain scored again down the right flank again. This time, Yamal sending Dean to the shops and finishing spectacularly. It would have been a truly iconic World Cup goal, but it would be denied by a marginal offside ruling. Not that it really mattered though, because Spain weren't exactly struggling to contain the French. Mbappe was limited to speculative efforts from range. It was the Mbappe special. In fact, France's first shot on target came in the 81st minute, with Doué's attempt saved by Simon in goal. Dembele had a half chance, but apart from that, completely thwarted. France had no answers to the collective brilliance of Spain today. In the end, it was men against boys. Huge credit to De La Fuente for their success. Like in 2024's Euros winning team, he's largely kept the same lineup. 7 of the starting 11 from that match started today. Prior to the tournament, I spoke about Spain's unique goalkeeper problem where, despite possessing 2 of world football's best keepers in Raya and Garcia, they'd almost certainly sit on the bench with Unai Simon favored, which may have been a head scratcher if you weren't aware of De La Fuente's appreciation of Simon, the trust he has for the lesser rated keeper. And look, he's been top all tournament. Okay, today that one duet chance, he slightly miscalculated the clearance prior, but outside of that, he's been outstanding. His distribution, his shot stopping, his decision making. De La Fuente has been fully vindicated in his decision to back him in goal. His back 4 were all immense. Laporte and Kubasi have been superb all tournament. Laporte may have stepped away from the limelight at the club level, but ability-wise, he's still fantastic. As for Kubasi, I mean, if Yamal wasn't on this team, Kubasi would probably be the main talking point. This guy has been elite as a central defender since he was 16. And now, aged 19, he's one of the best in his position in the world. In regards to their fullbacks, again, just terrific. Neither have put a foot wrong defensively all tournament. And going forward, both are a serious threat. Granted, I could praise each individual today because everyone played their part. It's the cog in the machine of Spain, but none, in my opinion, played to the degree of Rodri. It is so good to see this guy get the respect he deserves off the back of the World Cup, because people talk about him like he didn't win a Ballon d'Or as a defensive midfielder. This guy is one of the most gifted midfielders of his generation. He made Tchouaméni and Rabiot look like championship players. How many others can pull that off? He's so composed, so intelligent in the way that he operates. I've always felt that he is in that mold or that category of a Busquets or a Xavi, but just doesn't have the PR to match. That ACL was difficult for him to recover from. In fact, he's still not 100% fully fit. He's set to have surgery immediately after the World Cup. But regardless, I don't see any midfield being able to handle Rodri or Spain. And you have to credit De La Fuente again for the decision to drop Pedri, because right now Ruiz's qualities work better within the confines of this trio. Many managers wouldn't have the guts to drop a player of Pedri's caliber, but De La Fuente puts the team first. And then there's the crown jewel of La Roja, Lamine Yamal. He may not be stat padding to the degree of his world-class peers, but his influence today was there for all to see. 19 years old and now set to feature in his first World Cup final. 3 tournaments in his international career, 3 finals. It makes sense that he aura gambles, that he talks the talk, because this guy doesn't fear anything or anyone. And scariest of all, I still feel like we've only seen glimpses of Yamal this tournament. Maybe he's saving it for the World Cup final. He is a ridiculous player. Just quickly on France, and what an anticlimactic end to their World Cup campaign. Okay, yes, they've still got the 3rd place match to play, but let's be real, no one really cares about that game. Crazy to think that this will be the first World Cup of Mbappe's pro career that he won't be in the final for, but in 9 of his 11 previous meetings with Yamal for club and country, it has resulted in defeat. He really is his kryptonite. Not that it was Mbappe's fault or anything. France just got comprehensively outplayed today. So Deschamps now bows out. He'll have that final 3rd place match to play for, which he'll be hoping to go out on a high from before the Zidane era commences, where I still fully anticipate future success. I think the only thing that's missing from this current team is a poised central midfielder. Yes, they have workhorses and athletic options, but they're lacking that technically gifted ball progressor. And against a team of Spain's caliber, they got destroyed. We switch gears now to transfer news. And it's funny, just a couple days ago, Manchester United's midfield rebuild looked like it was beginning to unravel. The club had previously watched Elliot Anderson join Man City. They saw Tottenham beat them to Mateus Fernandez's signature, and then they lost their primary midfield target after Atalanta's Edison failed his medical. For a side desperately needing to strengthen in the middle of the park, it was quickly becoming a worrying transfer window. But fast forward 72 hours though, and the picture looks completely different. First came the signing of Andre Santos from Chelsea, and 24 hours later, Aston Villa's Yuri Tielemans arrives for just £35 million. Now, the obvious question here is, how have Man United managed to pull off a deal of this caliber for this price? Well, despite previously being under contract until 2028 at Villa, Tielemans' contract also contained a cheeky €35 million million release clause as of 2026. Granted, Villa never wanted to lose one of their most influential players in the squad and had even offered the Belgian a new contract earlier this year. Emery viewed Tielemans as a key pillar of his midfield alongside Kamara and Onana, but once United activated the clause, there was little he or Villa could do, with the Belgian keen on becoming a Red Devil for club and country. I gotta say, man, fair play to United. Finding midfielders of Tielemans' ability in today's market usually comes with a ridiculously inflated price tag, but in this unique case, they've snapped him up for a modest fee whilst he is entering the prime years of his career. More importantly, Tielemans appears to fit exactly what Michael Carrick is trying to build at United, an experienced figure that can fill the void of Casemiro, but perhaps offer a little more composure in the middle of the park, in addition to his ability to progress the ball forward. Last season, Tielemans led all Premier League midfielders and attacking players for defensive lines broken per 100 passes, while ranking only second to Rodri for line-breaking passes made under pressure. This is a midfielder who is comfortable receiving possession in tight spaces before instantly advancing the ball effectively. We saw this often at Villa. Tielemans regularly supplied Morgan Rogers between the lines while also picking out Ollie Watkins running in behind with pinpoint precision. That could prove particularly important for Bruno Fernandes, right? Too often, United's captain has been required to drop deep to collect the ball before creating attacks himself. Tielemans gives Carrick another midfielder capable of controlling the tempo from deep positions and potentially allowing Fernandes to spend more time operating in those advanced areas where his creativity and goal scoring are at their most dangerous. His influence extends well beyond possession as well, right? Tielemans has never been known for having explosive athleticism, but he's an intelligent defender too, whose game is built around positioning and reading danger early so that he can make those interceptions. Now, that doesn't mean United's midfield rebuild is complete, right? Santos is a highly versatile young midfielder. He can operate as a 6, as an 8, and he's got some serious long-term potential, while Tielemans comes in for the here and now. Alongside Kobbie Mainoo, Carrick suddenly has far greater depth in the center of the pitch, but I still think they really need to invest in a proper 6 before the transfer window closes. Apparently, Manu Kone is one of the names being mentioned internally. Wouldn't be surprised to see them opt for him or maybe Baleba. I think they need a real physical profile in there too. As for Villa's perspective, I mean, how frustrating must this be? Emery was planning for Tielemans to remain at the heart of his midfield, and with Onana suffering an ACL injury at the World Cup, this is going to make for a particularly damaging loss. Granted, Villa are expected to complete the signing of Johan Manzambi following his breakout World Cup, but that's a completely different profile. Manzambi plays in a more advanced role. Tielemans is a proper central midfielder. Replacing a player of Tielemans' quality is going to be very difficult to do. I know they got him on a free, so to sell for 35 mil is decent, I guess, but I don't think they're getting a like-for-like alternative for that kind of money. Also, to now be in the UCL, only to lose a star player to a fellow English UCL side, the optics of that aren't great. Staying in transfer news, and Barcelona could be set to cash in on Ferran Torres this summer, not because they want to, but rather to avoid further payments to Man City? Let me explain. Now, Torres' current contract expires in June 2027, and Barca are yet to agree on an extension, leaving them at a typical crossroads, right? Either renew his deal, sell him this summer, or risk seeing him leave for nothing when his contract expires next year. But adding to the complexity of Torres' future is a peculiar clause stipulated in his current contract. You see, when Barca signed Torres from City in 2022, the deal included a clause requiring the Catalan club to pay City an extra 7 to 8 million euros if the player signed a contract extension. Now, having already paid an initial 55 mil plus a further 10 in add-ons that have since been achieved, renewing Torres' current contract would now take the overall cost of the transfer to around 73 million euros. That financial obligation is understood to be one of the key reasons why sporting director Deco has been reluctant to offer Torres a new deal. Instead, Barca are now open to selling the 26-year-old this summer rather than committing to another payment or risking him walking away for free in 2027. So it's a bit of an awkward position for both parties, as Torres has hardly been an outright failure. He scored 21 goals in 41 appearances last season and began the campaign as Hansi Flick's first choice striker ahead of Lewandowski. However, a difficult run of form that saw him go 14 matches without a goal eventually cost him his place in the back end of the campaign. So he's a good squad player, but Can he be the long-term answer up front? Well, off the basis of Barca's activity in the transfer market, it doesn't appear that way. Anthony Gordon has already arrived from Newcastle. Karim Adeyemi is expected to join from Dortmund, while Julian Alvarez remains the club's dream signing, despite Atletico Madrid's insistence that he is not for sale. Either way, it doesn't seem like the Shark is being prioritized in this equation. It is worth noting that PSG have been linked with the player, although no formal bid has been placed as of yet. Moving back to World Cup news now, and fresh controversy has emerged ahead of the final, with FIFA set to break their own rulebook in order to pull off a 30-minute halftime show. Now, the concert itself is not exactly news here. FIFA announced months ago that the final would feature a Super Bowl-esque spectacle with performances from Madonna, Justin Bieber, Shakira, BTS, Burna Boy, and Coldplay. The shock here is that broadcasters are now reportedly preparing for an interval lasting around half an hour, despite Law 7 of the IFAB laws of the game stating that halftime must not exceed 15 minutes. IFAB also previously rejected a proposal to extend halftime to 25 minutes in 2021, specifically citing the potential impact on player welfare from a prolonged period of inactivity. To anyone that has ever played football at a remotely decent level, you will be acutely aware of how detrimental a break beyond 15 minutes affects your body. Like, 30 minutes is awful for the players. Their muscles will cool down, they'll need to warm up again, and the match quality will probably suffer as a result, which is a bit of a travesty considering it's the biggest match in world football. Yet FIFA don't really care about this factor or anything related to the World Cup as long as money can be made. Throughout this World Cup, FIFA has repeatedly altered football's long established norms. We know that hydration breaks are glorified commercial timeouts, creating additional advertising inventory for broadcasters. Earlier in the tournament, FIFA also made the unprecedented decision to overturn Folarin Balogun's World Cup suspension following intervention from the US President, Donald Trump, the first time a World Cup red card suspension had been rescinded since 1962. And now, by extending halftime beyond the limit set out in the laws of the game, FIFA is once again demonstrating a total willingness to bend football's established framework when it suits its own commercial or political interests, which is incredibly frustrating because football became the world's biggest sport without imitating the Super Bowl. Fans tune in to watch the players, not a concert. The World Cup final should be remembered for crowning the next world champions, not for becoming a test case for how far FIFA is willing to reshape football in pursuit of greater entertainment and commercial value. Whether supporters enjoy the spectacle is almost irrelevant. The far more important question is what comes next, because if FIFA is comfortable rewriting the conventions surrounding the biggest match in football, then realistically, anything is fair game. Man, FIFA is just so cooked. Like, there's no saving with this parasitic entity. They are everything wrong with the world. Anyways, rant over. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and thank you for tuning in to today's DMAC Daily. I'll see you tomorrow.